What's up, everybody? Welcome in. It is the Wrestling Mat. It's me. I'm Matt Camp. Good to be with you here. Have we missed anything? Have I not spoken about anything? Has anything been going on in the world of professional wrestling that we need to discuss? We're going to do it today. I told you yesterday on our social media at WrestlingMat23. I was traveling on assignment, but I would be back today, Tuesday, with a mega episode because there is so much to talk about. I don't think I've done a full live episode since last Tuesday. Yes, that sounds right. Heading into Thanksgiving week, and just a few things happened to happen during that time. We'll talk about those today. If you enjoyed the Survivor Series preview, I kind of dropped that as a surprise for the members out there. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Simulcasting action, if you will. Survivor Series in the books. First week of the Continental Classic, which you may have learned about a little bit more in the last week, is also in the books. And the New Day, did they have a bad day? What kind of day was it? A rough watch, I'll tell you that, and I mean that in probably the best way possible. But happy to be back with all of you. Happy to get into it here. I think I can nearly guarantee that I will be doing the NXT prospect rankings today or tomorrow for members. So make sure you are on the lookout for that. If you want to become a member, head over to thewrestlingmatshow.com. You get this show first and live before everybody else. It's in the 11 a.m. area. I think you guys know that sometimes it can go a little bit later, maybe sometimes a little bit earlier. I try to give you a heads up on that. And everybody else, if you are not a member at thewrestlingmatshow.com, gets it at 5 p.m. Eastern. You can also get it wherever you get your podcast. Thanks to our friends at the Believe Network. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave a comment. Make sure you're leaving comments on these videos. Make sure you're leaving comments on these shows. Certainly a catch-up for me, for everybody. And I will happily answer any questions you may have about whatever is going on in the world of professional wrestling, including with myself. But I'm right here. I'm right here for you here on the Wrestling Mat. Appreciate your support as always. Hopefully everybody had, for those who celebrated, a nice Thanksgiving. You did your shopping. You watched your football, whatever it may be. You went to saw Moana 2 like I did on Friday morning. A fine movie. Not as good as the first. I have since learned that it was supposed to be like a mini series, then they crammed it into a movie. Hey, listen, whatever makes the big guy some money, right? I'm also coming to you today from my normal setup here, not an IHOP or a Denny's, which is apparently the preferred method to relive the past. God, any good decisions? Any good decisions come from a dude sitting in an IHOP or a Denny's waxing poetic on successes of 1997? God, that's hilarious. It's even more hilarious to take his opinion seriously enough to put him on your big, cute video board. Jesus. NXT should be a doozy tonight. Gotta tell your special guest who Trick Williams and Ridge Holland actually are, but then after that, it'll be fine. Good coffee. All right, so where should we begin? I think I got to go right into the New Day stuff. Call it personal connection. Call it good writing. Call it whatever you want. I think the New Day segment last night on Raw was something that I absolutely felt I needed to tune into. As I said, call it personal connection. I will always have a spot in my heart for those three guys. And that will never change. And as I said, when they go in the Hall of Fame, that will be one I make a point to attend. So going into last night, we've spoken about this a lot here. What's been pretty amazing about this story is that while there have been matches that have been part of the story in the ring and you've seen the frustrations, all of the conversations, I think all of them, and if I missed one, I apologize if I'm overlooking one, but I do think my point remains that the majority, if not all of the conversations that Kofi and Woods have had and their frustrations have not happened in front of the crowd. They've been in Gorilla. They've been backstage. They've been on Raw Talk. They've been after him, but they haven't gotten on the microphone and hashed this stuff out. So last night when it was the 10th anniversary, now we're putting them out in, now the people get to react to this. The people get to be in the middle of it. And I actually think that added to it because there's always the complaints, and sometimes they're warranted and sometimes they're not, where they post any company, WWE, AEW, whoever, they post something on social media, great promo. It's like, the comments are always, why is this on TV? And for a time, I agreed with that. For a time, I did agree with that because it mattered more. But now, these days, absolutely not. You get your stuff on company social media with the reaches they have. It is just as important as it being on television. If it's good, it will be seen, it will be talked about, it will be referenced. So while a lot of that stuff happened, yes, on Raw and shown backstage, it also happened in other places. The story advanced in other ways. But then you put that out in front of the crowd last night, and now you are living it out in front of them. And almost makes total sense because it's a very natural thing. You don't come out and go, well, Kofi and Woods are going to be face-to-face in the ring to hash out their issues. You know what would have promoted that? That would have been a Vince thing. Instead, we've seen it happen very organically, after matches, before matches. But it hasn't been like, well, they're both going to come out here and talk about that. Last night's planned anniversary was the closest thing we've gotten to an airing of grievances. No pun intended towards Big E, who obviously is a big Festivus fan. So E comes out, and I thought he was excellent. I watched E in that segment and hadn't realized how long it had been since we've actually seen him in the ring in any way, shape, or form make an entrance on Raw or SmackDown. It has been a while. Yeah, that's a bummer. And I thought E came out there, and whether it's absence makes the heart grow fonder, whether he has just gotten better, whether it, be his time away from the ring and the projects he's done or the work he's done as an analyst. E was never really called upon in the New Day to be as deep as we know he can be. He would go deeper on the New Day podcast. You would get a little bit more vulnerability. He's funny as hell. E is E, you know that. But I don't think E, the wrestler on Raw, SmackDown, whatever, was called upon to be that serious that much, to show that depth. I think the tone for the day was set, if you haven't read it yet, and admittedly, I haven't been able to read all of it because I was traveling and driving and all that stuff yesterday. E's letter, Players Tribune, really expressing what New Day has meant to him and his mental health struggles, something I have talked about with him. Super open about those things, posts about it on social media all the time. And he strikes a tone that if you read it, you go, oh, there's a lot to this man that we have not been given the opportunity to learn about. So for him to put that out yesterday, very real from the tour. And then he steps in the ring last night and is There was a lot of very real emotion in there. There's no doubt about that. Super real emotion. To the point that I went, if he can do this, he looked like he was ready to be dropped into a movie or a television show. I thought he showed that level of chops. Once again, he is calling upon something very real. And a lot of the things that were said last night had some tones of reality in them. But man, did he find the right God. The sympathy I felt, the disappointment I felt, like that hit me. I know it's a story, but it hit me. And I'm not going to go back on what I said was, with this coming up, what would be the most interesting? Does Woods beat up E and get all the heat for it? Does he bring them back together? Yeah, and then what, though? That was the thing. If you brought New Day back together, the only major thing they could have done last night that would have been a positive was that he was returned to action. That would have been the only interesting positive thing to come out of that last night. If he had reunited them, I guess it's just kind of like, all right, they've reset. What's that going to mean, though? Well, they're going to go after the tag titles again. The only big thing that could have been, the only positive result from last night that would have had lasting, interesting, intriguing effects would have been E announcing he's coming back to the ring. Not the case. There were people that thought that even though Woods was expressing all the frustrations, that Kofi would do the turn. Not completely true. No, instead, the frustrations of Kofi and Woods come out together, and they're pointed at E. And it was heartbreaking. And I say that I know it's a story and all that, but it's literally, and you ask people that have gone through this. Sure, factions run their time and angles end. And Judgment Day talked about that when they broke up. Okay, we're not doing what we did for years. We're not traveling together like we did. We're not eating at, restaurants or going in van. Like, there is a very real aspect of that. Sure, you're still working together, but you connect in that way. New Day, factions don't go 2-3 years. Sometimes they do. Doesn't mean it's the norm. 10 years? No breakup, no teases. They made it 10 years until last night. You were waiting for E to get hit. You were waiting. Come on. He wanted to fight for it. Of course he did. He took everything they threw at him, and he still wanted to fight, and it was no, step away. And while I think there would have been a major reaction if they hit him, if they attacked him, I don't know if he's cleared for that in any way, shape, or form. I'm going to guess no. And based on their words saying he's not cleared, if you would have hit him there and he's not cleared, then it's, well, they're lying because he is cleared, because he would have been cleared if they were allowed to do any physical anything. I think it resonated way more that they didn't hit him. I think their words were so biting and so mean. And I get the dose of reality of, hey, it's not easy to carry this thing on without you. And yeah, there was a feeling of we need to keep this alive for E. Of course you do. And look, reality is New Day hasn't been doing as much big stuff. They've had big moments. You can always call upon them to have, but it's just not. It's not a spot where they're featured, really. They're reliable, but the reality is they haven't been featured. And there probably is a sense of responsibility of, we got to keep this up so he has something to come back to. There's probably a look around of, and I don't know what their contract situations are or anything like that, but hey, things are changing around here. Do we fit? Do they think we fit? Maybe they were told they do, or I don't know. But I guarantee that the majority of people who work there, who are wrestlers, in the last couple of years have looked around going, well, shit. Am I still good here? And look, I'll raise my hand. Other people can feel the same way, that were let go, or wrestlers that are, that they moved on from. That happens. Wrestling turns over, wrestling changes. Everybody knows that. Bobby Lashley's in AEW right now. It was baffling to see him leave WWE. It was baffling to see them throw the Hurt business away. It's working out nicely right now for the Hurt Syndicate in AEW. Worked out. Baron Corbin's not in the company anymore. I think he'll be just fine. But obviously there was a time when he was doing more. When he went to NXT, people were excited about that. The stuff he did with Braun Breaker. When that ended, unfortunately, that was really it for him. The turnover happens, but New Day has stuck through it. And now, as we step out of the story here for a second, it was a bummer because you watch someone as beloved as Big E, just he couldn't even do anything. I'm trying to get like you could. He wants to get cleared. He wants to come back. He wants to do what he's trying to do what he can. When they went further, look at all these people that came back from neck injuries. That's when you knew they went all the way. When they're literally throwing other people's injuries in his face, as if to say he's lesser than. Woods talking about his Achilles, and I came back for you. But to say he came back from injury as if they're comparable, as if you can compare the neck injuries of those other guys. And by the way, they say that about Kurt Angle. Kurt's had a lot of issues since then. Same thing with Austin. So, yeah, they came back. Edge came back. Edge came back twice. So going over the top and throwing that in his face as if to say, you not being able to come back from a neck injury is a negative. It's your fault. It was so biting and hurtful, and you there was nothing to do but sit there and listen to it and him be baffled by it. I'll come back for you guys. And they just threw everything in his face. And it was so sad watching people that in the history of wrestling, there has never been a more tight-knit group of people in the history of wrestling. I don't know if you can dispute that. 10 years, no hint of breakup. No issues, no squabbles. 10 years. That's why it hurt more. That's why the words hurt more. It wasn't a straight-up breakup. It wasn't a beat. No. And then Woods and Kofi coming back together at the end. So now I wonder, where do we go next? What does this do for Kofi and Woods? Who steps up to them? Because to me, you have just become the villains to a man who is beloved. Emphasis on the E. Beloved. Look at all the love and support he got across the wrestling industry yesterday when he posted his Player Tribune letter, as he should. You find someone who says something bad about E, you stop talking to that person. That's what I think. So who steps up to Woods and Kofi now? Is it Jey Uso? Do they become perhaps targets of the Wyatts? I don't know. I just want to know where Woods and Kofi go from here. I think I was more bummed about it being Kofi. Woods, I expected it. I have said I think Woods has a hell of a heel in him. And now I think he gets to flex that muscle. I hope. That's the thing. If you're going to be that bummed about a segment, even if it had to be done, now I want it at least. Now let's. I want it to work. I want it to work. I don't want in 3 weeks people to be mild about this or lukewarm. I don't want to boo Kofi Kingston. I don't want to boo. I hope they get everything that they need. I hope they get the heat that they need, that they keep up the heat that they need, and it leads to something. It leads to something different and interesting. And then where does this leave E? It's going to be on the kickoff show, and you know what? Maybe this kind of works. I don't know if there'll be any kind of kickoff or countdown for Saturday night's main event, but it does give a nice. If he's not, theoretically, we don't see E again and in his normal spot until the Royal Rumble, because you got Saturday night's main event. Obviously, you have the Netflix Raw next month. I believe I saw on Twitter today that the next Saturday night's main event will lead into Royal Rumble the week before, whatever. And then the Rumble's in February. So you can kind of have E off at TV now for about 2 months, if my math is correct. Like, he doesn't have to be on a panel and sell this. Like, he could be gone for 2 months. We'll see if he comes back into play. But what is the comeuppance? What does he do with this in 2 months? What does he do with this before that? If he is going to get involved before this, do you want to see? I'll ask. Do you want to see Woods versus E or Kofi versus? Do you want to see that? Is that the next move? Is that the step? If he can come back, that's who he fight. Oh, God. I don't know. I don't know if I want E to come back and fight them. It feels like if he comes back, it's so triumphant that they should be with him. Like, I was already thinking when it was over of, wow, I hope there's still room for a reunion down the road. One that feels right, I guess would be the best way I would say that. I don't know if that was so biting and tough. But we're talking about New Day in a big way. That says plenty. All right, so let's go back to Survivor Series. I said it was a one-match show in terms of how it was being sold to me. I think based on what we were talking about when it was all said and done, it was a one-match show. I'll start with that. And this goes for any type of one of these matches. The War Games match is tough to do, to me, without me being invested in the story or without there being a good, deep story. Because unfortunately, and every box was checked, there are too many formulaic pieces to War Games in general and in any iteration. Whatever you want to call it. That type of match. Tower of Doom spot. The face-off spot between, you're going to see it. It's a lock. There's no organic nature about it. They're going to face off in each ring. And, here's the 5 of, they're going at it. And, there's going to be, somebody's going to run it. Like, every time now, and I don't get this. 3, 2, 1. And here comes Bianca Belair. Hey, hold on, she's got to go into the ring. I can't find that. Put those things, hang them off the ring. Put them up the aisle. It's just weird that it's just become a normal part of the match is run out, look under the ring. Leave it out there. It really hurts the momentum. And I guess part of it's just, it's so formulaic to go, got to get a weapon. Going in there with a weapon, got to make sure I have a weapon. Like, why didn't you just show up with a bunch of stuff? Keep it in your cage. It's just so formulaic. It's like you're playing a video game. You're playing Double Dragon. You walk, there's the pipe. Oh, I got to pick that up so I have something to use against the bad guys. It's like you have to arm yourself to walk into war games. The women's match is what it was. EO was great. Some, big spots, but Rhea pins Liv. All right. Is that it? Obviously not, but it was what it was. What does that mean for Bayley? What does that mean for Naomi? Nothing. That's my point, is it was thrown together. Rhea pins Liv. Okay, the one actual story that has been going on for months that has garnered the level of heat that justifies War Games, at least that was covered. But does Bayley go like, wow, well, that was great. Glad we won that match. Sure, she takes some momentum into the U.S. title tournament. Sure, that's fine. But it wasn't enough to sink your teeth into. I thought Shinsuke going over LA Knight was the right call. And you can't bring Shinsuke back and then have him lose that quickly. I think LA could have used a little bit of an obstacle in his way. So I like the Shinsuke presentation, maybe a tad bit slow for a pay-per-view, but good to see him back. A little darkness. Music's good. Rare dub there. It freshened it up a little bit. I'll leave it at that. The triple threat match, those guys worked their butts off. Braun Breaker shoulder block looked like he was bouncing off of the Sin Cara's trampoline. That's the best way I would put it. It was like he bounced sideways off a trampoline and just launched himself. The way they shot that was awesome. I don't fully agree with, but understand the idea of him kind of being this chaotic tweener. You come at me, I'm taking you down. Babyface heel, I don't care. I'm the IC champ. And I get that people like that. I think you don't want to put him in purgatory. Either he's a heel and you go with it until people are definitely behind him, and then you turn him, or you really lean into the fact that he's exciting people and you just make him a babyface. The weird middle spot, I think, can get dangerous. You want people to know what he is. He's really exciting. He's one of those guys where, kind of like a Bronson Reed, where it's like, what the hell is this guy going to do? Something wild's going to happen. And by the way, if you haven't noticed, and I just see what people say, it seems like people think Braun Breaker's pretty damn good right now. What has Braun Breaker done this year? He's only wrestled Sami Zayn and Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser on a regular basis. 3 guys that have what? 50, 60 years of experience? And Braun Breaker's getting better doing that? What? It works. He is far better than he was in NXT. Far better. Yes, the booking's part of it, but he is better. He's working with people that are better than him. He's working with people that will tell him, hey, this will work here. Versus he's being molded by veterans now, whether he knows it or not. What he is taking from this year of working with a lot of damn good talent is going to set the foundation for his next 5 to 10 years. And I mean that in the best way possible. You asked veterans now, hey, you get to go in there with Sammy and Sheamus and Kaiser. That's going to be your rookie year. People would be thrilled by that. You hear stories of being in the right car with Kevin Nash talks about, how much, Rick Rude helped him. Being in some early cars with, Harley Race. Things like that. That shit rubs off on you. Working with the right people at the right times in your career when you're an impressionable young wrestler. And it also helps when those veterans realize, hey, they're going with this guy. I could either push back or I can go make some money with him. I can go show the company that I can do stuff with this guy. I would think the company is thrilled with where Braun Breaker's at right now and is happy that they could throw him out there with Sheamus or Kaiser or Sami Zayn and know, hey, that's going to work. He's going to get more over. He's going to continue to build to be a bigger money maker. Man, those guys really helped. And watch where, by the way, let's transition here because we'll get to the men's War Games match. Look at how Sami Zayn is just floating through right now, making everything he does mid-card, upper mid-card, main event. Look at Sammy's year of getting through Gunther, being the IC champion, losing, dealing with Chad Gable, losing that title to Braun Breaker, getting involved with Jey Uso, getting involved with Gunther, losing to Gunther again, losing to Gunther after beating Gunther, getting involved in the Bloodline story, being a very important part of the Bloodline story. And then last night on Raw, finding himself in the mix with Seth Rollins. And there's plenty of history, real history. Not a lot really. There's not a lot of Sammy Seth stuff, which is why it's feeling fresh and interesting. But those guys go back to Ring of Honor days. They've driven each other nuts, I'm sure of it. But their back and forth last night was interesting. And I love Sammy going, hey, you created Roman. You did this with that chair to the back. That had lasting ripple effects that we are all still dealing with. So, it is on you. And the Punk stuff with Seth. I mean, look at the Bloodline story is now creating a lot of offshoots. Think about the offshoots it's now creating. What has resulted from the Bloodline? The new Bloodline. Solo Sikoa. Jacob Fatu coming into the company. Jacob Fatu getting over in the company. Jacob Fatu getting to a level where if there's a face-off with Roman Reigns, people lose their minds. Tama Tonga and Tongaloa. At the very least, we got the Super Mario World meme when Tama Tonga was going across the cage to start 4 games. Also, Tongaloa struggling with the table was performance art, and I want to believe he did that intentionally. And I know he gets a lot of trash. He's a good dude. He's very nice. I feel bad that things have not always gone the best for him. Then again, he's in a main event storyline, and you shouldn't feel too bad. Anyway, resulting from the original Bloodline. What else have we gotten? We've gotten who Drew McIntyre is because of the Bloodline story. We've gotten Yeet Jey Uso from the Bloodline. Cody Rhodes finishing the story ended up turning into a big part of the Bloodline story. He was the one to conquer them. And yet, they remain as important as ever, and perhaps even more important than Cody Rhodes as WWE champion. But what has that also created? Kevin Owens being pissed off that Cody tagged with Roman, which is now spurned into Cody Rhodes is the golden boy, and I'm sick of that. And Kevin cutting the promo that I've been waiting for him to cut about how could you be with them? They tried to end me for the last 4 years. And that is an offshoot. That is now leading to a WWE Championship match at Saturday night's main event. Seth Rollins being in the middle of it after it looked like he was going to wrestle CM Punk. Helping Cody win. Admitting that he caused this. Coming back. Getting brought back into Punk and Drew. The stuff with Bronson. And guess what happened? Seth got pulled back in, it seemed like, because Bronson was in the match. And Seth doesn't end up in the match. And everybody waited on Sunday. He's coming out. And he didn't. Saturday, excuse me. They did that long exit, hugging Paul, kissing, posing, sleeping, finger up, all that stuff, and nothing happened. I would have cut that short by about a minute, but I get they were playing up the drama. I also get that I was dead wrong in saying that, hey, it's a big 4, something big's going to happen. There was no return. There was no big, sure, Finn, cost Priest and Bronson Tsunami, get well soon, dude. Oh, my goodness. How did they not use 2 tables on that spot? I don't understand that. I don't know if would have fixed it, and I am Monday morning, Tuesday morning quarterback in this. I admit it. I am surprised they didn't use 2 tables for that spot. Hindsight's 20/20. I get it. It sucks. I feel bad for Bronson. It was a big spot for him. But I'll come back to that. Bronson Reed gets pulled into the Bloodline story now. Now you have Seth and Punk, and they're talking about the Bloodline. And you have Sammy talking about it and Jey Uso getting involved. These are all offshoots. And I'm not saying it all remains the Bloodline story, but it's resulted from that. So that we're in the 3rd inning thing or whatever. I don't know how much they had planned. I don't know how much they tied back to it. But the ramifications of the Bloodline are reverberating throughout WWE. And it comes back to Roman. And it comes back to him not apologizing. And it comes back to all of his actions should make people like Drew McIntyre feel justified. Should make people like Kevin Owens feel justified. But then you have the people who are like, hey, we were pulled into this. And like Sami Zayn doesn't feel like the most confident person right now. There's the spot where Roman and Sami and Punk are all in that cage. And Punk's going to go out and Roman stops him. And he tells Sami to go. And Sami did. And I didn't like that. And I got the moment was big. My only issue with that was I didn't like Sami falling in line. I know Roman has treated them a bit more equally, but they still look to him. Even though it's very clear he doesn't have the answers, they still look to him. Even if he's pushing back against CM Punk, they were still looking to him. And for Sami to just go along with the fact that, no, Roman said to go in, that didn't feel very confident Sami Zayn like. That felt like the Sami Zayn who fell in line in the Bloodline. It's a nitpick. It got a big moment. I get it. And then, of course, later on, Punk saves Roman and, everybody's good. I don't think it's over, though. The baby face is winning. All I would say is it puts that new Bloodline in a tough spot. I was talking about this on Busted Open over the weekend, Saturday morning with Denise Salcedo, and she's like, I'm not sold on them. I'm not sold on them being main event credible. We put a poll up. I said, all right, fine. Because I think they've done a good job as of late with Jacob, with Solo, I think they've been presented better. Now, that doesn't mean they were seen necessarily as on the level. We put the poll up. I think like 57% of people said they're where they need to be. I think like another 16, 17, whatever the hell it was, percent said, they're almost there, and the rest said no. But the majority, not a super majority, but the majority were like, no, they're where they need to be. And Kevin Nash brought up a good point, and it is something that since the Survivor Series War Games match had been fantasy booked going back to WrestleMania, was what's that team going to look like with Roman? And there were fantasy scenarios thrown out where they get Brock and they get Punk and they get Cody. And it was just like, at some point, this team is too strong. And instead, we get the OG bloodline. And it looked like it might have been Seth, and it wasn't. And, was it going to be Hikuleo? And they get Punk. And they go up against Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, who don't match anybody in terms of star power or resume on that team. They're your bottom two. I would say Bronson's 3. Sure, he's been up more lately and presented bigger and certainly acting in such a way. I would say 2, 1A is Jacob and Solo. But then on the other side, who the hell's your low man on that team? Jimmy Uso? And then what? Sammy? And then Jay, and then Punk, and then Rome? I mean, like, they're loaded. You could argue that the number one guy on the new Bloodline team is not even at the level of the number 5 guy on the... And I guess it would be Jimmy, right? If you just had to, in kayfabe terms and everything, Jacob and Solo will be ahead of him. But are they ahead of anybody else? Is anybody... I would say in the eyes of the fans, if you had to rank... Let's see if we can do this, right? You rank the 10 guys in the War Games match. You go Roman 1, Punk 2, Jay 3, Sammy 4. I'm talking about just perception. I'll say Jacob 5, Solo 6, Jimmy 7, Bronson 8, Tama Tonga 9, Tonga Loa 10. And I bring that up because Kevin Nash talking about this on his show, saying, man, when they added Punk to the team, that's too much. And I thought the baby faces would lose because I thought the heel side needed it more. And now it's like, man, they won. They were good. Punk helped Roman. And look, there's a favor there. And Punk, where's Heyman at? And this isn't over yet. But, are they going to fight for the Ulafala now? And what's the relationship? Does it continue on? Heyman, I don't know. It seems like Punk's going in the direction of Seth, and they're going to go there as they should. I would just say that the new bloodline feels like they took a pretty big blow that I don't know if they were equipped to take. That's what I would say. It doesn't feel, and I know it's taken some time, and I said those guys joined back up with Roman. It feels like Roman was lost, begrudgingly took the help from Punk, hasn't really apologized, has been very focused on just getting back to where he needs to be. I mean, I still feel that way. And he'll take the help along the way. But I would also just say that Roman getting a victory when it feels like he hasn't paid enough of a price, that's got to be addressed. But it leaves for a lot of intrigue going forward and where he goes next. I just hope that the new bloodline doesn't get lost. I still think there's a lot in Jacob. everybody thinks that. I still think there's a lot in Solo. Those two guys can't get lost, and obviously Bronson, well wishes to him. Hopefully that doesn't remain a major issue. I hope he can come back from that, but obviously an injury like that looks kind of gnarly, and that's a bummer. I mean, I'll just say that that's a pretty big bummer to see that all go down the way that it did. But we'll continue on here. Let's talk about the Continental Classic, folks. Let's just say I'm invested in it, as I think everybody knows. I know we had a clip go up about loving tournament wrestling. First week is in the books. Okay, so I guess I have to talk about it. Yes, I did do Inside the Continental Classic. That's all I have done for AEW. Certainly was very appreciative of them wanting me to do this. I had a great time doing it. I have recorded another one. I put it on Twitter last night that I've done it. I believe it will be out later today. And that's where I'm at right now. There is no really other news to break. I was happy and have been happy with the opportunities that I've been given to do some work on that. And that's where we're at so far. So it's easy to get excited about something you're enthusiastic about. And I've been actually lucky enough to, in the process, work with some people who I worked with in the past doing fantasy football stuff at Bleacher Report. And they have been super nice and helpful in helping me shoot these things. And a great example, by the way, of always remembering who gets you to places and who helps along the way. So I do think that is, I have been appreciative of those relationships that are very genuine. And I got to see some people that I haven't worked with in years, but I felt like I fell right back in line with, behind the scenes people that have done setups at, where I've lived for Bleacher Report, or I saw somebody I worked with in Vegas for Bleacher Report, and, they were back around. So I would say to any young broadcasters out there, remember who's helping you put the stuff on the air. Remember who's helping you out. I hate hearing stories. There is a prominent NFL broadcaster who, I guess it's a female, who I've crossed paths with. I don't think I've ever done any hosting with her directly, but we've crossed paths, and I've heard enough stories about how she's treated the crew, and it absolutely drives me up a wall to hear when production, whoever it may be, gets treated like we're all people. Just because some people are on camera and some people are helping put them on like that drives me nuts. So appreciate the people that work with you. Just a little bit of advice, and know that it takes a lot of people to make that kind of stuff happen. And I realized that I didn't put the notification on, and some of you are coming in now. So thank you. Hello, Nerdy Dude. This is the Wrestling Matt. What's up? Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I did. Hope you enjoyed your time as well. Dennis says, how much prep time did they give you before that first Inside the C2? I had a decent amount. I will say I am very proud that I got to work with multiple people in AEW in terms of putting that together on the back end, and producers I worked with. The whole show I wrote. Dennis says, I enjoyed it. It seemed like it was rushed from the stats disagreeing between the copy you were reading and the graphics on the screen. I didn't think we had any glaring errors. The one thing I knew is I did every one of those. Any issues, any mistakes, and I don't think there was many. It did come together fast, no doubt about that. But I will say anything that was a mistake is on me. All I know is I didn't, in the Mark Briscoe capsule, in terms of his achievements. While I mentioned in his unique facts that he was Ring of Honor champion for 200-something days, I know I didn't put that in the achievements. So I that one's on me. Everything else, though, I know I think I got right. Dennis, I'm always willing to learn, and I want to make sure it's right. But I think we got pretty much everything there. That's my research and that's my writing. I put the show together and then worked with who I needed to shoot it and worked with the post-production of AEW. Their team is fantastic. And putting that together, we didn't have a lot of time. And what they were able to turn around, I was super impressed by being able to put those graphics. Like it was what my vision was. As I look at some things, it's how I wrote it. I would reorder it. The episode that I believe is coming out later on today is way more tightened up. And obviously going to be a little bit different because I already did the preview stuff, but, reviewing. And I found a very interesting stat about Kazuchika Okada that I talk about in there and the upcoming matches that were announced and where things stand. But you'll get that later on today. I have been very happy. And I see some of you guys bringing it up. The response has been really fun. You're going to get the people. And I'm like, you know what? That's not even the start. The responses have been overwhelmingly positive to the point I've actually been surprised. People like that it's sports-based and, that we're addressing, and I say we, I did it. It's the company, but like I was allowed to, I would say that. I was allowed to address, records and past and so much of that. And, that is the most obvious thing about pro wrestling to me. There is such a rich history there that can be used sparingly, can be used in a very big way, and it's always at your disposal. I had talked about how at times I was told to not bring up things in WWE. Famously, John Cena, Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. When Cena came back in 2021 at Money in the Bank, I was told, don't bring up that No Mercy match from a couple of years ago. Okay, sure. And now, the Bloodline story is 10 years back. It's 5 years back. It's 4 years back. It's different elements of time of, Seth and Zva. You have history. Use it. It only adds to the story. You want people to go back and watch your history. You promote Peacock. You promote things going to WWE, to the Netflix account. You promote the WWE Vault. You promote, A&E biographies, and that's history and all that. You're telling people that the history matters, and we make all these shows about them, so why not integrate them into your current storylines? And for the C2, I took the same. I did this anytime I was trying to hype things up in WWE is, are there stats I can use that are simple, that are digestible, that add to the story? Can I reference streaks? This person hasn't lost in this long. Hey, actually, their history goes back this many years. Why not give you more things to sink your teeth into? And look, not everything can be brought up on TV by the commentators, by the promos. So find those little spots where you can add a little bit more color, add a little bit more juice. So when I was putting that together and looking at the stats, and I'll give you one that was tough, admittedly. I look at Claudio and I look at Ricochet. And if you saw the graphic, it said 3-3 televised. They had a bunch of house show matches in WWE. Am I really counting them? Am I going, actually, Ricochet, because he was whatever champ at the time, won all of those. Does he really have that much better of a record against Claudio? No. So I and I had to do this, and I think some people got it. It's, hey, let's focus on the stuff that actually matters. When they wrestled in a match that was in a way featured, and yes, they wrestled in Chikara. Let's address it that way. So I love and I appreciate all of the freedom I got to do that, and they went with it, and I really enjoy that. It's an easy thing for me to get into. From my past, I used to run G1 pools on various podcasts and things like that. And I love tournament wrestling, no matter what. But this, the round robin is, hey, here's Beast Mordos and Kyle Fletcher. Well, wow, they're coming from different places. What's that match going to look like? Here's Will Ospreay and Juice Robinson. That's only happened once before. Daniel Garcia and Okada. Great story to tell there with, Daddy Magic and Garcia going, hey, we got one. We went up there against the champ and we didn't lose. We got a point tonight against the favorite, the man. We got that tonight. And Okada could look at it and go, I'm Okada. I'm the greatest tournament wrestler alive. I didn't get a point. I only got 1 point tonight. There's ways to make those stories matter more. I love the fact that Darby Allin and Brody King had another great match. A lot of people were impressed by Brody last year, personally, right here, until it was spoiled by Daniel Garcia. So you have Garcia taking that momentum from last year, the TNT Championship victory, into the first round against Okada and coming away with a point. You have Brody King now going, hey, I was that close to making it last year. I was this close. Can I build on that? Well, he wins his first match against Darby. They tell the story of Darby coming down the aisle, still clearly messed up from what happened. He ran a car into a truck. He came out bloodied. I don't even like saying protected, but Darby then gets to come out there, beat to hell. No, he shouldn't put up. It's going to be tough for him to fight Brody. And it was. And Brody beat him. And then here comes Claudio out after the match is over because we still have those Death Rider Darby issues. And Brody goes, no. You don't get to do that. And then Brody and Claudio are fighting this week. Tournament mattered there. The Death Riders mattered there. The stuff with Darby mattered there. And now you're getting a match, which is a rematch from last year, which Brody won. And I think it could be fantastic. Dennis says, I never would have guessed I'd be excited for Fletcher as Benjamin as I am. Yes. Hey, Shelton Benjamin, a 3-time G1 Climax participant. He's done it before. But him and Kyle Fletcher, yeah, that's a hell of a match. City Local says Darby aligning with the House of Black against the Death Riders could be saving grace to not having Malachi or Buddy in the C2. Look, I talked about that a bit. Like 12 guys in, it's going to leave some big guys out. I'm happy of the 12 that are in there. You could have made a case for plenty more, but also the G1, goes double, 10 in each or 12 in each. That's a lot of match. It's not as TV friendly as you'd think. So I like the 6 and 6. It's going to leave people out. Other people are tied up in things. I get that. But also leads to some unique matchups. Dennis says, I wonder if it's Darby aligning with House of Black or more about Darby and Brody doing their own thing when they're together. Brody has had less of the House of Black style presentation when he faced Darby last 2 times. Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. But you know what? You never always... He can always be in House of Black and still go do his own thing. You don't have to break things up. You can kind of let guys go off on their own and still keep that affiliation. That's a good thing. But C2, fun start so far. That Darby Ospreay match announced for a couple weeks from now feels like, as I joked, when Roderick Strong saw that, his neck started hurting. And it's their 4th match each. So, but more on that later. Nerdy Dude asked about Survivor Series. I talked about it a lot, dude. You got to go back and watch. I apologize. I did not set this over to the members fast enough, but it's all there. Covered Survivor Series. I'm happy we're going to get, trying to think what I might have missed. I guess I didn't talk about Gunther and Priest. Good match. Finn back in the mix. Gunther wins. They're teasing the babyface stuff. I don't know about that. I am happy we're getting Gunther and Finn Balor. I know they did that on the Raw a couple months ago. Was supposed to be the UK TakeOver Dublin match. Never came to be because of the pandemic. So cool that we're getting that. Once again, I don't know how I feel about Gunther going babyface, but they are hinting at it. So yeah, more C2 stuff coming up. Say what you will But in a vacuum, I really enjoyed Chris Jericho and Tomohiro Ishii last week. I thought they beat the hell out of each other. Admittedly, Tomohiro Ishii is one of the primary reasons I got into New Japan. So I will always appreciate seeing him, even at this stage, on national television. They beat the hell out of each other. And that was fun. Also, Big Bill on commentary was hilarious. He is my favorite part of that act. And Brian, it's working. That is working in a very big way. Big Bill he's one of those guys that if you're paying attention, he's always on. He doesn't miss a moment to get a little bit more out of even, a few minutes. Pay attention because he's been very entertaining. Nerdy on last night's Raw. I covered the New Day stuff at the top. It's about 20 minutes. Talked about Sammy stuff. Oh, the women's titles. I would just say I don't think the women should need titles to have stories, but now that they have secondary titles, they should have, I don't like the fact that the women had 2 matches on WrestleMania this year. And they were both for championships. I don't like that on a 5-match card, the women had 1 match. With a U.S. title, with an IC title, those excuses go away. You're quite happy for Dakota. Yes, me too. I would go Chelsea over Meechin for the U.S. title, and I would go Dakota over pick a heel. I don't know the bracket in front of me. But those 2 people feel right. Chelsea should absolutely win the United States Championship. Absolutely. She should win. You could do babyface with Lyra and Dakota on the others for the IC title. But I please give me Dakota and Chelsea winning those tournaments. Please and thank you. Anything else? Did I miss anything? Any other big news out there? I think I covered it all. All right, so I would say by tomorrow you will have the NXT prospect rankings for members. So we'll get those out for December. And I'll obviously be back with more. Tomorrow should be a pretty normal day. If you're a member, you'll get it live in the morning at some point tomorrow. Everybody else gets it at 5 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a thing by heading over to WrestlingMatchShow.com. Subscribe, become a member. You won't miss it live. You'll get those NXT prospect rankings. They will be coming in the next couple days. Hopefully by tomorrow at the absolute latest. Head over to ProWrestlingTees.com/TheWrestlingMat to get your Wrestling Mat merch. Certainly appreciate that. Rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe there as well as the podcast hits with the YouTube show every day at 5 p.m. Eastern. But if you're a member, you get it live. And first, you can leave a comment there. But I want to see what you guys are thinking, so leave your comments down below. And, of course, I'll be back tomorrow to talk about wrestling even more right here on the Wrestling Mat.